Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're here today with our great friend, Patricia Raybon. Patricia and I have collaborated more times than I have time to list here. She has had an amazing and versatile career, including stints as journalist, teacher, nonfiction book author, devotional writer, and now novelist. Her many acclaimed books include My First White Friend, which won a Christopher Award, I Told the Mountain to Move, a Book of the Year finalist for Christianity Today magazine, a devotional on Bible virtues entitled God's Great Blessings, Bound for Glory, a tribute to African American spirituals, co-authored with calligrapher Timothy Botts, and Undivided, a Muslim daughter, her Christian mother, their path to peace, co-authored with her younger daughter, Alana Raybon. Her latest books are the Annalise Spain Mystery Series, an exciting history mystery series featuring a young black theologian, a fan of Sherlock Holmes, who solves crime and consequence during Colorado's dangerous 1920s Klan years. You can also download a free e-booklet titled The Busy Person's Guide to Hearing God from her website. Her essay has been published in the New York Times, Newsweek, USA Today, Guideposts, all over the place. And she's been aired, her blogs have been aired on NPR's Weekend Edition. So Patricia Raybon's website is patriciaraybon.com. So please go check it out. Patricia, it's always so wonderful to see you again, and congratulations on all of the incredible work that you've done.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you for having me.
Certainly, certainly. So before we go into anything, is there anything else that you want to update our audience on?
I would mention it at some point, but I'll say it now. I'm under contract for a novel with Tyndale Fiction. It's a World War II code-breaking novel.
Oh my.
And it's set at a black finishing school in North Carolina, and it's about a young, poor black math teacher who's working at a fancy finishing school and ends up decoding a message that's a threat to the life of the President of the United States.
Goodness.
And so, it's a Jim Crow era and world, and she's trying to rise above her tobacco farm sharecropping roots, and gets caught up in this national intrigue.
Wow.
And has to decide if she can help crush the threat and figure out all the other things that are going on in her life.
So
that's
a predicted date when that'll be available, or not yet?
Tyndale's looking at fall 2026.
Okay. Oh, really? Wow.
Yes.
Seems quick by public standards.
Right. So that's the latest.
Oh, good, good. That's wonderful to hear. I mentioned the Annalise Spain mystery series. Could you tell folks a little bit about that?
It was my pandemic project. Actually, I love the mystery genre. We've talked about that, I think. And so during those first months of the pandemic, I said to my husband, my late husband, what if which is always the best question when it comes to fiction, but what if I work on this mystery novel that I've always been talking about? And so my agent loved it, and he sold it pretty quickly. And then Tyndale came back on the same week and said, can you turn this into a series?
Wow.
So, the first one is my protagonist coming home to Colorado to solve the murder of her estranged father. And so I was hoping that somebody would be interested in the story, and we did find several publishers that were interested. But then when Tyndale said, oh, can you turn it into a series? And then I had to sit down and say to myself, gee, look what you've gotten yourself into.
Really?
Because fiction writing and nonfiction work, I'm a journalist by training and worked 1,000 years at the Denver Post in Denver, and then taught 1,000 years at the University of Colorado at Boulder. And I also worked another 1,000 years for the Scripps Howard newspaper in Denver. So I've done that as a feature writer. So I've done that kind of work. But fiction writing is it's a completely different beast. And so it's been humbling and exciting. And I'm really just feel honored beyond words to do this kind of work right now
Well, I hope it's
at this time.
rewarding too. I mean, it's been very well received, obviously.
It has been. That's been a surprise to me. With this fourth novel, I am starting to feel that as if I sort of kind of know what I am doing. I remember Dan used to ask me, he said, writers are always talking about story. What is story? And he clicked on his phone and started reading a kind of a Google definition. It's an episodic, long narrative. And so I said, you know what, Dan? A novel is a story about somebody in trouble trying to get out of it.
Mm, mm.
And that's really every plot. I was just reading yesterday about the new Booker Prize winner.
Oh, right.
And so at that level, the literary fiction to popular fiction, wherever you land, that's what it's about.
Mm.
Somebody in a bind trying to get out of it. And, and then all the people and the places and the events and issues that are connected to that protagonist and their struggle.
Well, it's kind of the story of our lives too.
It
Right?
is.
No, I mean, we're all kind of like, oh, how am I going to deal with this?
That's right. And in fact, that's why I was excited to talk to you today, because as some of your viewers will know, and of course my husband did pass away in June, a few months ago. And so to my surprise, I found myself discovering how dealing with death was teaching me even more about life.
Wow.
Especially in the context of creative work or solopreneurship, that so many of us are involved in right now. And so, I thought,
tell us more about that. I mean, because I knew Dan. He was a great guy, and so sad to hear about his passing. But I also know he was, suffering health-wise for several years before that.
Yes, he was.
But it doesn't make it easy. I know that. But but tell us kind of how you went through the grief process yourself, what that looked like, and then how it's impacted the rest of your life.
Well, what I heard from people first was to pay attention to your emotions and sit with them. Everything from sadness to anger to guilt. Now, people would say to me, "Oh, you took such good care of Dan." I felt more than almost anything guilt that if I had taken good care of him, why wasn't he still here? But as I started feeling all of those things I was feeling, fear, uncertainty, I have to keep the roof over my head and the car running and the air in the tires, the furnace winterize, all those things. No matter what I was feeling, I realized that I had never been feeling them quite that way. And that, the sadness and the fear or the anger, the guilt, all those things. And then since I have been working on this novel that I told you about, Brian, I looked at that manuscript and I said, wait a minute, what this really feels like, I haven't begun to turn on that spigot, that faucet, and really let that come out.
Wow. Huh.
And, because I had not felt these things in the same way before. When you lose the person you've been doing
Yeah.
everyday life with, for
49
us,
years,
that was
right?
49 years.
Yeah, it's like, oh my.
And when that happens, then when you talk about sadness, that's a completely, it's not generic, it's a different kind.
Mm.
Or when you talk about fear or all of the guilt. And so I found myself looking at the writing that I was doing. And I thought, wait a minute, there's more to say here.
Mm.
And I have nothing else to lose. I've lost this, big reality in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing to lose by just letting it up, telling the whole truth of whatever it is, for a fictional character or for an essay or for a talk, or for, a conversation like we're having today.
Mm.
And I didn't anticipate that at all. I thought, Brian, that I wouldn't be able to write at all.
Wow. Wow.
And Tyndale even said to me,
fearful. That's not right. I mean, for you.
And they're very generous. They said, take as much time as you need. But what I discovered is that I was writing every day. First, I was journaling,
Mm-hmm.
but then I kept going back to the professional writing that I was doing in the time that we're living in. We're in this time where, from the highest quarters of the land, people are pushing back on Black stories, for example, in my case, on Black history, and I write historical fiction, and calling these stories woke garbage. And so I thought about Dan, I thought about his life, and the life that we had attempted to live together, and I thought, oh no, this is not the time to be quiet. This is the time to get cracking, to get to work.
Good for you. Well, I mean, you know how many author interviews I've done, right? And one of the things that has come across time and time again is the therapeutic aspect of writing.
Yes.
That so many authors experience. You have now in a very specific way.
Right. Well, and even bigger than that, Brian, is the therapeutic aspect of living. And so some of the podcasts and books and things I would read on being a widow or being grieving were kind of like, take your time and sit down. But what I felt I was being led to was to get moving. And so even in a small way, to establish, one writer said, establish a new daily rhythm. And so I would get up early. Dan passed in June, 5 days before my birthday. But I would get up early and do small rhythm things like sweep the patio or the front porch, water the plants, pull some weeds. I started doing that every day.
Wow.
And so by being up with the sun every day, by the time I did that, I was then truly ready to sit down and get to work. And so I started to see that there's some things that I can do in practice, in just the practice of living, that are going to enhance this creative journey that I also am on.
Hmm.
And I mentioned to you earlier, I think before we started recording, Dan, people knew Dan as an extrovert. He was the
Yes.
extrovert in our marriage. Well, he's not here anymore. So um, I had challenged myself to make at least 2 calls a day. Call somebody 2 calls a day. I saw my neighbor, my very next door neighbor. She was been walking her dog every day for her dog's like 14 years old. And so I said to her one day, would it be okay if I walk with you? And so I've been walking with my neighbor
Oh,
in the
good.
mornings.
Good.
And I don't think, gratefully, I don't think I've missed it, but one um, church service since Dan
Wow.
passed away.
Wow.
I've said to myself, get in the car and go and do the thing that I didn't think I could do, which is, being out there and taking my introverted self out there in the world and rediscovering it. And that has brought an order to my day. And you know this yourself because you have successfully launched ventures. Part of being a success in it isn't so much one's talent, it's one's commitment to it and one's consistency to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't know these things, but now, without Dan being here, it's at the end of the day, it's up to me to do this, to do these things. As I said, to put get the oil changed and, and the tires rotated.
Sure.
And and so I was one of the people who writes about grieving says, this is an opportunity to build a new a life, but really it's an opportunity to be your new self.
Hmm.
And I humbly am seeking to do that every day.
Well, it seems as though, your effort to be more proactive, I'll say,
Yes,
outreach and things like that has had a significant impact.
it has uh, uh, informed the schedule of work. A lot of people who write professionally know this, that we don't wait. And I guess I learned this working in newsrooms for years. It's not a writing and being published. It's not about waiting for inspiration. It's about sitting down and doing the work. And as you do the work, then the inspiration comes.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I love that. If it's okay to mention this, I love that Bible story where the men come to Jesus and ask to be healed of leprosy, and he says to them to go and
Yeah.
go show yourselves to the priest. And as they were going, they were healed. And it's the same,
Yeah. Yeah.
proactive. Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
with this other work that we're doing.
That's exactly. Buechner had a whole essay about that exact, phrase.
Oh, really?
Yeah. 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 Same kind of, thing that you're expressing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And so somebody asked me, I was blessed to be a speaker a few weeks ago for the Red Bud Writers Guild.
Oh, good.
They had their annual writers retreat, and it happened to be in Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And so I was, honored to be there. And so somebody asked me, okay, do you plot these novels or do are you a pantser? You know, that phrase, somebody who's riding by the seat of their pants. And so I did pants, the first two in the Annalise Spain Mystery series, but for these others, including this new one, I sat down and plotted, 30, 40 pages of plotting. But no matter what's on the plot, it's in the sitting down to work it out, to write it, that the story starts to tell you what it is and what it's inviting you to help it be. And I mentioned to them that E.L. Doctorow, the novelist, and this isn't just for novels, it's for nonfiction writing too. He said writing is like driving at night in a fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. You just have to be willing you just have to be willing to get in the car
and start driving. Oh, that's great. That's great. I love that. I love that analogy. Wow.
It's not going to happen any other way.
So
I would think, would you say that's true for the entrepreneurial ventures that you?
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started writing for your life and, publishing in color, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea where it was going to go. I mean, I spent most of my life in high tech, as an engineer or a business person or stuff. I hadn't written any books. I never was a publishing house person or an agent or author or any of that kind of stuff. So it's like, talking about going by the seat of your pants, I mean, I was probably ahead of my headlights some of the time, but it worked out incredibly well. And, for me, that was just such a blessing,
Yes.
that, and, unexpected that I would ever do those kinds of things. But as you said, kind of like you dive in and you figure it out, as you go, right? I mean,
yes. Yeah. I think waiting till you figure everything out is too late. And so,
or letting fear get in your way, right?
right.
I mean, is to say, well, I'm not sure if I want to do that because, yada, yada, whatever, all the things you can invent in your mind to convince yourself not to do something, to not be proactive, like what you were saying earlier. But,
yes. Well, especially, since all of this creative activity has a competitive aspect to it, there are always, if you're an entrepreneur, there are always other businesses that are maybe doing in your category. As an author, there are always other authors out there who are, I personally, just like you, I know authors who have sold books in the millions. And so one can get distracted by that, or say, this in front of me is what I'm being invited to focus on.
Yeah.
And if I can, if I'm willing to give it my all, give it my best, it's the best I can give it, then and then release it. Then I get to find out where it will land in this marketplace. And wherever it lands, it will bless somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'd like to go back to something you mentioned earlier about how going through the grief process, you reached the point where you decided that you just let everything flow. And can you talk a little bit about how that reveals itself in your writing?
Yes. And I thank you for letting me talk about that, because more recently I have been doing this fiction writing. And so, and fiction is this series of scenes, right? Immediate scenes where things are happening. And so there can be a voice in an author's head that says, oh, you better not say that. Uh, you better not let that happen. You better not go there. And so that's true, I'm sure, for, this grief walk.
Mm,
You better not wear this pink sweater. Why aren't you wearing, black or
mm,
whatever?
mm, mhm.
And it has felt to me like an invitation to do the thing that looks like it could be judged or it could be wrong, but go for it anyway
Wow.
and then see how it works out. And of course I'm not jumping off the next cliff, but I think you know what I'm saying. The inner voice can caution us about trying something new or different, or something that looks like it might be frightening uh, or inappropriate or whatever.
Mm,
But what I've discovered is that most people are trying to live their own lives anyway, and so what they're asking from those of us in the creative sphere is to do the work, and and because when they need to read it, then it's going to be what's going to be helpful and inspiring
mm,
to them.
mm, mm. Well, so it sounds like it's caused you to be maybe a little bit more willing to take risks
Yes, yes,
and maybe a little bit more willing to experiment,
right, right, and
right?
especially creatively,
Uh-huh.
because practically speaking, I mentioned earlier, with God's help, I'm um, aware that I'd like to keep a roof over my head and the car running. uh, and so creatively, however, what I am discovering is that that's the place where we are needed to help people um, wrestle with life.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Brian, um, when I look at uh, the heavyweights in my area in writing, for example, I mean, um, Shakespeare, for example. I mean, you're talking about somebody who was born during a plague and who dealt with, or during his whole life, other plagues uh, where it threatened the places where he lived and worked, plus wars and rumors of wars. But the creative work that he did helped people deal with that.
Mm, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so, here we are right now, in a world of injustice and just, caustic indifference. That's how it can feel to people's and their needs. And you mentioned, people who are literally trying to not just keep a roof over their heads, but put food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And so those things, you know, um, sadly are around. But if we are called to this other work, it's so vital that we do it, so that when people do need to read a story or an essay or a book or find a business that's going to help them, it is somebody's made the effort to get it out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was invited to be on a panel at the Denver Public Library in, I think it was September. And so people were saying, keep writing these stories. Please keep writing these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, and so I think they're saying that to us who
Hmm.
do this work.
Hmm.
You have this entrepreneurial idea, keep working on it. You have this novel, you have this nonfiction essay, book, or article, or this book of poems. Keep at it. It's going
Amen.
to help us. It's going to help me.
Yes, yes. No, I think in the times of, as you said, injustice and chaos and a lot of bad things going on, people need hope. People need, release. People need support,
Right,
a lot of different ways. And so books have been, historically quite valuable, right, in
right.
providing, that. So I understand why you're getting that kind of feedback.
Yeah, because I've a couple of times I've said to myself, oh, what if you write a book and it gets banned, or you can we can talk ourselves into not doing what is waiting for us to do.
Mm, mm. So I know you talked about, the new novel that you're working on. What
Hmm.
are, I know you're doing devotional writings and some
Yes.
speaking. Can you talk a little bit about what devotional work you have coming up and what speaking engagements you have coming up?
Well, I'm a regular contributor to our Daily Bread, and that's the daily devotional, but our Daily Bread Ministries also publishes a lot of other content
Mhm,
that is released all over the world. And in, geez, at least 50 different languages or more.
mhm.
And of course, now, um, well, I wasn't going to say anything about AI, but apparently AI has been very helpful in the translation
Ah,
of more languages.
cool.
So, but when I go to those conferences, they had a conference recently for the people on their writing team, and the writers are from all over the world. And but when we go to those meetings, what editors are saying, whether they're in Africa, Singapore, the UK, Middle East, wherever they are, they're saying is people need encouragement.
Hmm, hmm.
And so, it needs to be theologically sound, biblically correct, um, historically accurate, and all of those things. But most people at the end of the day need a lift.
Hmm, hmm.
And so, and then here's your very, very, for the daily devotional, we, it's probably 200, less than 200 words or something, very small amount to write an illustration, share the scripture, and then an application takeaway. And so I love the challenge of that kind of writing.
Hmm.
A novel is 90,000 to, 100,000 words, a mystery novel. This is just a sliver. And it's a challenge. It's humbling. It's so humbling.
Huh.
And, but I'm very grateful for the assignment. And I don't know if I ever shared with you this. Um, Readers of my mystery novels find me through our daily bread.
Do they really? Wow. Cool.
So, I may have a devotional one day, and then if people like it, they might look me up, and then they'll say,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I like, I, "Dear Patricia, I really liked your devotional, and now I see you write mystery novels. I love mystery novels."
That's
So,
great when, you have something like that that draws them to your website because they want to check out more of what you're writing and then, it goes from there.
and that's a thing that I had um, almost talked myself out of, because I thought, well, people won't understand that. And some people who have seen my nonfiction spiritual writing at first were saying, "Why are you writing novels?" But novels are about life.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Very cool. Well, It's so good to catch up, Patricia, and I'm so glad that you've been willing to share, kind of the grief process that you've gone through, the benefits, that you've, I guess, learned, if that's the right term.
Lessons,
Out of all
lessons.
this. Lessons, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's very helpful to all of us. And please keep us
Yeah.
posted on the new work that comes out, whether it's a novel or other new books or other new projects.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate your friendship, Brian, to authors and readers. And you've just had such an impact in such a positive way to just countless, countless people. And so I thank you for that. And I thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Patricia. And please go check out patriciaraybon.com. Bye for now.